Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's webinar, which is Custom Properties Part 2. I'm Martin from support, and I'll be joined today by Karen.
Hi there, everyone. Happy you're here. So I'll be in the background helping out with the Q&A. And if you have a question, please use the Q&A tab. Those of you who are here usually know it, but for those of you who are new to our webinars, there's a little tab at the bottom that says Q&A. You can ask your questions there. That's where we will be looking. Also, try to keep your questions on topic. If you have an off-topic question, maybe ask it in the chat, and we can, answer it there. Otherwise, that is all from me, and I'll see you at the Q&A.
Thank you, Karen. Right, hi everyone, and welcome, as I said, to this week's webinar. If you'd like to sort of give us a shout out in the chat, that would be great. Just so we know that that people are here. That's fantastic. Anyway, to start off then, what this is part 2 of the webinar for custom properties. Now this is the project that we built last week, and what we're going to be doing is adding a little bit more to this and then moving on to a different project afterwards, and the different project would be something you might have seen in Facebook, the game. Anyway, coming back to this one, this is the project that we built last week using the custom properties, where the custom properties held things like price, description, color of the item of something like that. So here it's color red, and you've got bits and pieces. If I close the browser and click on the viewer, you can see, if I go to make sure that I've selected the user data, you can see that those user data custom properties are here. So we can see that the door widths and the access to levels and all of that sort of data can be stored in the custom property for that particular node, and as we change nodes, so that data can change with it. So that makes building such projects like this a lot simpler, rather than having to keep ducking into the skin and keep making alterations. You just edit the user data, done. Okay, so what's going to be different with this project? Right, well, what we want to do, let's just open up the output, is we want to look at the custom properties for the point hotspot, because what we want to do is when we click on a point hotspot and we see some information about a product, I want to be able to change the color of something so you've been there. Okay, and so at the moment we don't. We can click around and think, oh, have I seen this project or product, or what's going on, so we want to give some sort of indication. Now with Pano2VR, we've always had a visited node, where if you visit a node we can have a little checkbox and something like that, but this is information hotspots. It could be video pop-up hotspots or image pop-up hotspots, and of course nodes visited won't work there. So this is where the point hotspot custom property comes into its own right. So I'm just going to close the browser, and I'm going to go on to the point hotspot, and you can see that we've got the 2 custom properties that we've added anyway from the previous or from last webinar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click custom property, going to add one, and I'm going to call this mouse clicked, and I'm just going to call this bar click. All right, and this just needs to be a boolean, so a true false, and that's going to be set to false because it hasn't been clicked yet. All right, so that's basically that custom property setup. Now, what is new since the last build? Well, in Pano2VR version 7 beta 3, what happens now is when you add a custom property, it automatically assigns it to the skin straight away. So when you click the skin button, it says custom properties from the project have been added as a variable to the skin. So it's now doing it automatically. If you remembered last time, it would stack it in a little holding place at the bottom here. You selected it and added it to the skin. Now it adds it to the skin automatically, and you can see it's now added to the variable list, and here it is. It's a variable that's coming from a hotspot. Now, why is it important that we identify hotspots and user data? Because this is unique to that one hotspot. Okay, so as an example, when I click on that hotspot and it turn it from false to true, it will only be for that one hotspot. So hence why we can say change its color for that one. Anyway, so there's the variable. So what I want to do then is to make this work, I'm going to select the info hotspot hotspot template, and I'm going to give it the action of, on mouse click, I'm going to set the variable value to the var clicked, that's the one we've just added, and we're going to set it to true. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is, if we have a look, this is the hotspot that picks up the information, or is our info hotspot, but we're going to change the background color. So if I select this, you'll see that we've got the background, and I'm going to say here that when var clicked equals true, I'm going to change it to, I don't know, let's say yellow. Okay, and let's close, save, and let's create our first output, and there it is. Okay, so what's going to happen now is when I click on this, it turns yellow. If I click on it again, we can hide the text boxes, and yeah, so that's all working, and you can see that as I click around, they're all to yellow. This one I haven't clicked is still white. The important thing about this is that if I was to leave this node and come back again, those are still yellow. Okay, so this is a really good way of showing where you've been, or what images you've clicked and what you've seen and things like that. So this is a really, really good way of doing it. Okay, I know it's fairly early on. I am going to throw it over to Karen for the second to say or ask if there's any questions on the understanding. I need to slurp a drink. So, Karen?
Hi there. Unfortunately, there aren't any questions yet.
It's all right. I've just finished gulping, so I'm good.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, and I just I put into the chat a link to our last webinar in case anyone is wondering, more about this stuff. You can quickly go over there and see the last project. So, oh wait, there's a Q&A. Somebody came in.
Oh,
okay, so
Thomas is answering the question. So.
No, Danielle.
Okay.
Is there a solution? Is there a solution to write the value of such variables into cookies, so that when you close and reopen the tour, it'll be preserved?
Yes, you can. You can set up cookies. If you look at the there's the cookie component, because obviously what we can do is save out variable values into cookies, and of course these variable values are just the same, or exactly the same. So we should be able to send. Oh, not yet for hotspot files. Okay. I'm going to go quiet on that for a second. But good point. So apparently not. I thought you could, but apparently not. But good point. Beta 4, apparently. Expect it to work in Beta 4. Okay. When you think you know something. Only normal. Right. Okay. Only normal variables. Not hotspot variables. Okay. So yeah. So in answer to your question, no, not yet. No. But watch this space.
All right. Watch. Yeah. Well.
So that'll be a Beta 4 thing. Okay.
I think Daniel did that to us last time. Asked a question. It's like, and then it ended up as a feature.
Yeah. No worries. All cool. All good.
All right. I think that's it then. Yeah. Carry on.
Thank you very much. Right. Okay. So we're at this point then. So we've now been able to just click on a hotspot and change the condition for that one hotspot. This is what the Hotspot Custom Property is all about. But what I want to do is expand this a little bit further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, let's just hide this. I'm going to add a text box, as I do. And I'm going to use this as a helper. Now, what I want to do is add a text telling me how many items there are to view and how many items I have viewed. All right. So how I'm going to do that is I've just added the text box to the skin in preparation, but I'm going to close the skin down and we are going to go to the user data, and I'm going to add a couple of custom properties to user data. So the first one is I'm just going to call total. So that's total number of, let's do HSs for hotspots. All right. And I'm just going to call this var underscore total, and that is going to be a number. Okay. And then I'm going to add another one. So that's the total. And this is going to be, let's just call it hotspots clicked. And the variable name for this will be var underscore hs for hotspots underscore clicked. And again, I'm going to leave that as being a number. Okay. Right. So I've added those now. So every single node in the tool will have these fields. All right, that's we can add them to the user data, so now everyone's got them. So what I'm going to say is in this node I've got a total of 4 hotspots, so I'm going to stick 4 in there. Okay, and I'm now going to go to the skin so we can use this data. And again, as soon as I click the skin, you see custom properties are now going to be added to the skin, and you can see I've now got my click true false one, which we had before, and I've now added 2 more, and the source is user data. Okay, so what do I need to do? Right, well, what I need to do is add another action to the hotspot template, and that is going to be on mouse click, I'm going to set a variable value to the HS clicked, and what I want to do is +1. Okay. And what that's going to do is every time I click this, it's going to add 1 to that value. So if I now go to my text box, what I can do is pick up using this, so I'm going to highlight all the text to either delete it or it will overwrite the whole thing. But I'm going to use the insert placeholder button, go down to variables, and I'm going to select the clicked placeholder. And what this will do, if I just open up the preview, is show me how many hotspots have been clicked. So let's close, save, and have a look, and you can see there's 0, and if I click 1, it says 1, 2, and it just keeps counting. As soon as I keep clicking, it just keeps counting up. Okay, all right. So what I want then is not only do I want to count up, but I also want to say how many of the hotspots are there. Okay, so what we've got then in this text box, we've said that we've got a set of number of, and I'm going to insert the next placeholder, which is the one that says total. Here we go. So again, if we have a quick look at this, let's just output that, and let's put that there so I can get it later. And you can see that we've now got 0 of 4. It says I can now do 1 of 4, 2 of 4. And if I go back to here and just keep clicking, you see it just counts up. So it's doing the job, but it's not that accurate. Right, so how do we sort this out? Right, well, if we go back to the skin and have a look at our actions here. Now, we've already added the variable as have we clicked a hotspot, yes or no. All right, so what I can do here is add an action filter that says on the variables being clicked, only count if it's false. So if I haven't clicked it at all, when I click it, it's going to add 1 to that count. Of course, once I've clicked it, that variable value will turn to true and it will add a count to it. Okay, sounds all logical. So let's just go through this again. So mouse click, set variable value to true. Yeah, okay. And when we click this, we're going to add 1 to the variable, the clicked variable. So therefore we should see it counting up. Now I actually have made a mistake here. And what I'm going to do is just open up the skin and open up that just a second to see if anyone can spot it. See if anyone can spot the mistake, because this is not going to work. But what I want to do is just go through the process of showing you the output. So let's see the output. You can see we're at 0 of 4, and when I click the hotspot, the 0 of 4 is not changing. We're actually getting the, I've clicked the hotspot, so I've gone from false to true here, and that's working, but this is not counting up. Anyone got an idea why? Any takers on that? I'll have a quick slurp of my drink.
Oh, no takers yet. Can you show the skin again?
Right, okay. So let's go back to the skin, and here's a clue. Let's just go back to the actions from the hotspot. So what's wrong there?
Daniel's asking wrong sequence of actions.
Yep, bingo. I'm not going to hold anyone to any for suspense. I will answer this straight away. So yes, it's the wrong sequence. Basically, what's going on is this action is saying we are going to add 1 to the variable. Yeah, so we're going to count up by 1 to this var HS clicked variable. Yeah, but only when the hotspot is at false. Okay, but the first action is changing it from false to true. And as actions are actioned from or triggered from top to bottom, what's actually happening here is we've set in the variable to true. So the time it gets down here, the variable isn't false. It can't trigger, it can't click. So if I just swap them around, that will, he says, change. So let's just refresh the page so it resets the value. And when I click that, it's got 1, 2, and so on. And because now this is at true, I can click this as many times as I like, and it's not going to count up. So this is now being accurate. I have four products to look at. I have seen 2. I have now seen 3. He says, that's it. And we've now seen 4. All right. Okay, cool. All right. So that's basically that happening. What we can also do, which is quite cool, is if we go to the text logic block, we can turn around and say that if the HS clicked equals 4, so this is the one that we add to, when it gets to 4, we can actually change the text from there to say all products found. Click OK. I will click the skin and close the skin and re-output, and just refresh the output. So now when I click that, we got 1, 2, 3, and when I click 4, all products found. Okay, now as I say, the cool thing about this is because the hotspot true or false is for the hotspot, the one that we're clicking, but because we're actually adding this to the user data, all of this is only affecting this one node. Of course, when I go to the next node, we haven't set this up yet, so it's a 0 of 0, so I've got no products to see and I've not clicked any. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the list view in node 1. I'm going to select a couple of nodes here and copy them and just paste them into node 2 just to have a couple of products. So I'll stick that one there and that one there. So now what I'm doing now is in my total is now going to be 2. All right. Okay, so I can close the list view. Didn't need to go into the skin, and we can just create the output. So now you can see in this node we've got 4 products to view. In this node I've got 2 products to view. I can go literally, I've clicked 1, I can come back, see here I haven't clicked any, so I can go 3, can go back to the other node. This is just to show that, you know, you can go off and do other things. So here is 2 of 2, and when I come back to this one, I can click 3, all products found. Right, now what if I want to show all products for node 2 as well? So how do I deal with that? Right, well that's fairly straightforward, because in the logic block what you would do here is that you would add another, I'm going to say, and if it's in node 1. Okay, I can now add a separate logic block, and I'm going to just select both of those and copy both of those and paste. Just change that now to node 2 and change that value to 2, because that's how many that needs to be clicked. And I'm just going to copy and paste that message there. So here, if the total clicked is 4 and we're in node 1, we're going to show that, and if the total is 2 and we're in node 2, we'll show that text box as well. So let's just output this, and let's just do this. Let's go to the second node and click V2, and we should get 1, 2, all products found. Go back again, 0 of 4. We can go 1 in any order we like, 2, 3, 4, all products found. Okay, so that's setting up the custom properties with a little bit more, you know, what do I say, a little bit more intelligence to the hotspots. It's also giving you this, you've visited not a node, but visited a pop-up or an image. We can count how many we're doing. We can interact with the skin. We can bring up text boxes, which then obviously lend itself to, I know, some sort of gamification and other things that you can do. Right, and on that happy little note, do we have any questions, Karen?
Yeah, sorry, we do. So going back, excuse me, sorry. I think you might have answered Daniel's question, but I want to ask it anyway. He wants to just make sure he understands. If he creates custom properties for one Tor node, they will be available for all Tor nodes automatically.
Absolutely.
The same value in each node as
no. Right. The property itself will be available in each node. So if I click on one and go to a node that we haven't influenced yet. So here you can see that we've got the title, description, all of those appear in every single node. And so will now all the custom properties. But what data you put in them depends on the default property. Like I started off with all of these custom properties, all started off as blank. So if I door whips, I actually typed in 762 millimeters. And here with the total count, that starts off blank. So in this node, when there was 2 product hotspots, I put 2 in. And in this one, there's 4, I put 4 in. So it then picks up this data from only this node. But this node will be 2 and that node will be 0. So yes, all custom properties will appear in every node, but the data in there is unique to that node. Very similar to hotspot title, description, author. So it's exactly the same deal. Yeah? Understood. Okay. Thanks. Right. Okay, yeah, cool.
He's got it.
Got it. Right.
And that's it for questions.
Right. Okay. I don't really think there's much more we can do with this particular project. I think it's covered all the bases there. It's quite good. I mean, obviously with text boxes, we could change the color of text boxes with the variables. So again, without getting too deep into it, what we could have done is where we've got this sort of logic block going on, what we could have done is copied this and let's put it to, I don't know, let's do background color and paste, and we could have said that once we've got there, we could change the background color to red on that one, and I don't know, let's put red on that one as well. Okay, and then what we could do then is on the text color, so let's paste that logic block back in, and then we could change the text color to white. There we go. So this is just showing you how easy it is now to, once you've got your logic block set up, how you can quickly copy and paste them just to make the other attributes of, say, text boxes and everything else look different. So let's just do this and click on that, and we can get the red. And again, the other one with only 2 clicks or 2 products will do the same thing. Okay, right. I think what we're going to do at this point then is I'm going to switch projects, and the project I want to switch to is what I've been working on and showed in the Facebook and forum group. And this is a continuation, continuation. This is a different version of the game that we built using the variables and logic blocks part 3 webinar, where we made a game out of it all. So if I just open this up, and I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but basically it starts off and we have a start button, you have a clue, to give you some idea of what we're doing. It gives you a little bit more hints on what this little padlock does. It's the next to the padlock is a hint. When you click it, you can reset the level. So if you start getting questions wrong where it won't let you through, you can reset it. And the other little claim to fame of this is as you start getting the answers correct, the padlock will change colour. It'll start off with so the first correct answer will be a dark green, the next one will be a lighter green, and then the final question will let you go. So let's just start the level. Now, actually what I'm going to do is just refresh that. It says basically to play the game, blah, 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 but the first puzzle you will need to find 3 colours. They will be on one item. See clues next to the lock. All right, so let's start the level. So the clues next to the lock is bag, hair, and dog. All right, so one item is the bag, and it's asking you to click in order bag, hair, and dog. So it's the bag, the hair, and of course when I click the bag, we now go to a dark green. When I click the hair, it gets to a lighter green, and the dog, when I click the dog, it goes to even a lighter green, and the padlock is now open. When the padlock is open, so is the padlock on the hotspot. So if I was to reset this, you'll see that the hotspot is not clickable. You can't go anywhere. You have to satisfy the conditions of the puzzle. Once it's done, you can change rooms. Okay, you get another question or cryptic clue for what you have to do. Start the level, and then you get the hint here. Click start. It's saying bees live here. Let's just, there's 3 beehives. You've got to get it in order. Now this is the idea that if you click, say, the wrong one to start with, the padlock stays red. So you click the reset again, click this one, that's wrong, so it stays red. So it's got to be that one first. All right, so we click that, we get the dark green. If I click another hive, it's wrong, it's gone red. So I know that it's not that one, so it's that one, that's the third one. So you're actually getting some visuals as well. What you can't hear, which you'll hear on the recording, is that when you click an item, you're hearing a click sound, because what I've also done is I'm not changing the cursor to a hand when you're hovering over which are Polygon Hotspots. Yeah, normally you would have a hand to show someone there's interaction, but in a game that sort of gives it away that you've got to click on it. So I've disabled that within Pano2VR settings, so there's no hand. So the only thing, or the only feedback you've got is 1, this padlock changing colour, and 2, you do hear a click noise. Okay, but as I say, you'll hear that on the recording. And the final level then, once the padlock is green, we can go through. It says in level you have 10 seconds. So this particular level, there's a timer going. All right, so as soon as you click the start, timer starts running, you get 10 seconds. And what you've got to do is find a festive gnome at floor level, and then it says there's a fairy with a dress which is one of a kind. So if we click the level, there's the little gnome. If I click that, you'll see the padlock goes dark green. I'm just going to wait around. I'm not going to bother doing anything. I think it's pretty obvious the single, or rather the fairy in the one-of-a-kind dress. It's the only one that's sticking out, which is red. So let's click the gnome. Let's click the fairy. You get this congratulations sign. I'm also hearing a fanfare that we've done with the audio. Of course, you'll hear this on the playback. But what it's also doing, which is quite good, is it's giving you, it's basically keeping count of the seconds. So on the very first initial start, it starts the game timer, and what I'm doing is every second I'm adding a 1 to a logic block, a numbered logic block, and then I'm also keeping count on the amount of clicks, because the smallest amount of clicks to complete the game is 8 clicks, because you've got 2 lots of 3, and in this particular node you've got 2 items to find, and then you get your 8 clicks. But the idea is to get it down as many seconds as possible. You can hit the reset, and that will then takes you back to node 1, and you can go again. So that's basically this game, and this was built, so this was built using these custom properties. So if I go to the user data, you can see here we've got the custom properties here. So they've got the hint, which was at the top of the screen. Actually, let's just open this one up again. All right, so you've got the hint at the top of the screen. And let's have a look here. So that's, you've got the level clue. So this is all this text. And then you've got the answer it's got to find. Now, this is actually saying 1, 2, 3, but it's no spaces, all one word. Why is it 1, 2, 3? Well, let's just have a look. If we have a look at the Polygon Hotspots, the first one has got, in the description, it just says 1. The second one, it has 2, and on the dog, it has 3. All right. Okay. If we have a look in the skin, what we're doing is we're using the polygons linked to a container. Now this is something new for Pano2VR 7 as well, so this is another one of those little tips that will crop up, and that is we're now using regular expressions and Polygon Hotspot or Hotspot Proxy IDs. We had before, if you wanted to link a polygon with something in the skin, say a container that had actions like this for argument's sake, because basically a Polygon hotspot, you set it up in the hotspot editor and you can add a title, a description and a link URL. But if you want to do something more with it, you've got to link it to the skin, and the way that you did that was to have something like a container, and you used a hotspot proxy ID. Up until version 7, the hotspot proxy ID would be one of two things. It would be the polygon's ID. So let's just go back to the project file and click on that. You'll see that it says Poly01. Here, Poly02, here, Poly03. And then if I was go to a second node, the count starts again. So we're back to Poly01, Poly02, etc. All right, okay. So let's go back to the skin. So here you would have either Poly01. So this would only work with that one polygon hotspot. So what we also had, as I said, this was one of two inputs you could have. So theoretically in this game, if we had the old way of doing it, I would need 3 containers, one reacting to Poly01, one reacting to Poly02, one reacting to Poly03, and etc. But what we could do is use an asterisk. So if we just replace this with an asterisk, it would then work with every single hotspot type. So a point hotspot, polygon hotspot, didn't matter which one, which node, as soon as you clicked it, it would interact with what's going on in here. Now with polygons, or rather with these hotspot proxy IDs, this actually works with what's happening. So if I had a mouse enter action, if I was to mouse enter into the polygon, it would trigger that action. But here you can see I've got a load of mouse clicks. So it's only when I click on that polygon do anything happen here. Now the other thing that I think is worth mentioning, which we don't use that often, is I can drag a sound directly into the skin editor. Now the idea of this is for something like mouse clicks, not complex sounds. This was purely designed for things like mouse clicks. So here I've added a click sound, and here you can see on mouse click, play media 1 click. So as I click the polygon, you'll hear a click sound, and it's being generated by this action activating this sound. Okay, so that's a little bit about the sounds and the hotspot proxy. So when I click a polygon, I'm actually playing a sound, but I'm also adding a variable I've created 3 variables, one for each of the panoramas, and I'm calling them levels. So there's 3 levels to this game. So var L1, L2, L3. And what I'm saying here is that I want to, every time I click a polygon, I'm adding $H. So I'm adding the number, either 1, 2 or 3, that's in that hotspot description into that particular variable. So that variable is a text variable, it's blank. So as I click the first polygon, it's going to put 1 in. When I click the second one, it puts 2 in, and when I click the third one, it puts 3 in. So I get 1, 2, 3. And here what we've got is this is only going to happen on node 1. And the idea with this is that if we go to let's have a look, let's go to the lock state. Here we go. And have a look at the colors. You can see here it's broken down into three. I've got my three colors. I've got my dark green, light green, and lighter green. So if we look at the first level, when I click the first polygon and it adds 1 into the variable value, it turns dark green. When I click the second polygon and it adds the second word to that variable value, it turns a lighter green. And then when I click on the third and last polygon, it adds 1, 2, 3, and it turns it to light green. And of course, the way I've set up the logic block, you'll see that it's doing it for all three. So that's just for the first clue. So when I go to the second node, again, we've got 1, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. But on the last node, where there's only 2 things to find, you'll see, so in level 3, we've got 1, there's nothing in level 2, and it's going straight to level 3. Rather, in level 3, it's going straight to 1, 2, that then takes it to the lighter level. So that's basically how I'm using the custom user data fields to create this game. Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I need another gasp of a drink, or a sup of a drink. Karen, do we have any questions in this right now?
Yes, we do. We have quite a few.
Cool.
I just wanted to start with Barb's question, because I think it was answered about how Martin got the sound to play, right? That was already, I think he just showed us that. And yeah, sorry about the confusion with the time. We started at 5. We always start at 5, and then the changing daylight savings time screwed up with our template somehow. So I apologize for that. Yes. And also, I just wanted to note also we have the webinar set to 2 hours, but we try to keep it at 1 hour. Okay. Luke has a question. Can you import an XML or a CSV list with custom properties for a set of nodes? And I'm told that at the moment, there's no add import for this, but you can do this by modifying the Pano2VR project file, because it's just XML. So, but adding an add import custom properties is on the list to do. So
I'm glad you answered that.
yeah.
I was like, okay. Not sure how to answer that one, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, so, and let's see. So Luke is also asking if seconds are clicks, if seconds are clicks are registered, are they written to the file? So like if you're making, I guess, some kind of content, so are they saved somewhere?
No, they're only
Seconds and clicks. Yeah, thank you, Daniel.
They're linked to, can't speak, sorry. They are actually going into a let's see what's happening. Right, they are actually going into a variable, and let's see which one it is. Right, so basically I've got a timer. So basically, use that word basically one more time, I'm going to scream. Right, so we've got the game timer. So as soon as you click enter, a action starts the game timer, and what the game timer is doing is on deactivate, it's adding 1 to the game timer. All right, but it's local. It's local to the project. So as soon as you hit the refresh page, it's gone. So it's not stored where other people can come and play this. It isn't stored other than in the variable. And as soon as you hit the refresh, it's gone. So yeah, it isn't that clever. It is, literally, whilst it's open, you can see your score. But yeah, it's not server level. Does that answer that question?
I think so. It makes sense to me. If not, Luke will write. Um, so Daniel has a somewhat off-topic question, but he's asking, so um, you're giving audible feedback when you're clicking the Polygon hotspot,
Hmm.
but there's no hint in advance, right? So you don't have the hand cursor. We've deactivated that.
Right.
And he's asking if there's a way to let the Polygon hotspot maybe flash shortly when you're clicking it, so that there's no so that there's also some kind of direct visible feedback.
Well, this is why I would put the change of color of the padlock, because if you get it in the right order, then you get oh, I see what you mean. Right. Okay. So if you get it in the wrong order, you don't, apart from hearing an audible click, you don't see anything else, and the padlock stays red. You only see it turn dark green when you click the first of the sequence. But are you saying you would want to see a quick flash of the polygon as a visual representation, regardless if you've hit it in the right sequence or not? The answer to that is probably yes. I'm just trying to think how I would do that. But it would be yeah, show one, and then you'd be the polygon ID to show it, and then I suppose you could do a mouse down to show it and mouse up to hide it again. Possibly. I mean, I'd have to think about that, but I wouldn't have said it was an impossibility. I just can't think of how to do it off the top of my head straight away. But yeah, I mean, there are projects in the forum that do something similar. There's projects in the forum that, you know, I'm using a timer, change colors and do all sorts. So I'm pretty sure that we can do that in this.
So you can get as creative, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it takes a few other kinds of steps or something, but
yeah,
sure, I
absolutely.
think you could probably do something like that. So Daniel's also asking, the way that you did the variables, from the different levels, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, like maybe you can bring that up onto, yeah, and then into the logic blocks.
For what? Logic blocks in what element?
Oh, I forget now. In
What, the lock state
Yeah,
for the
where you
colors?
yeah, yes.
Right, lock state for colors. Right, okay.
Yes, there we go. So he's asking, the way that this method is done, it's not so elegantly done. Is there a way that you can use a counter and a condition block for the color, instead of just evaluating the count number?
There's probably more ways to skin this particular cat. This came up to me as being the first one, but yeah, I'm sure if you thought about it, there would be other ways. It just made sense to me that as we were, adding, as I was adding words, then we would do this. Now, the reason why I'm adding words is because if I was to, again, just off the top of my head, if I was to use something like numbers, we could use a plus. So it'd be 1 + 1 + 1, and then you could say count to 3, and once you got to 3, you count. You would change a color. The problem there is that you would be always hitting the same. So you click 1, it'll always be like the first character would be 1, then you click it again, the second would be, or the second number would always be 2. Because I'm using words here, if you clicked the wrong one, so 2 first, then 1, the answer was never going to be 1, 2, 3. You'd send the answer out as being 2, 1, 3. So it would never work. But yeah, in answer to this, sorry, I'm digressing there. It's yeah. I'm probably there are probably different ways to do this, but it just made sense to me that what I wanted to do is show progression. So on the first click, I'm using the word 1. When it sees the word 1, I'm changing it to a dark green. When it sees 1, 2, a lighter green. 1, 2, 3, it goes even lighter still. Is it elegant? Don't know, probably not, but it works and it's quite robust.
Well, that's not. He wasn't. He wasn't just saying it's inelegant. For him, it was just
Yeah, no,
it,
no,
yeah.
I'm just trying. You know,
It's just
as
a
I'm thinking
different.
about this, it's just like okay.
Yeah, it's just a different method. But I think now that you've explained it that way, for Daniel's understanding, you know, why words are probably easier or
Well, I was
better
going to.
or
I must
well,
admit, I was. If I sorry, Karen, for
no, it's
interrupting,
right.
but what I was thinking about was on the beehive one. Was just to put numbers. I mean, to change it from a text custom property to a numbered custom property, and then the idea is that, you know, 1 + 1 + 1, the answer is going to be 3. So therefore, using that method, it didn't matter in which order you clicked it, and you would still get it right. Using this idea, it has to be done in a sequence. If you go back and have a look at the variables and logic blocks part 3, where we originally built this game, in the beehive or the second node, what I did there was actually use numbered variables, but but to get the sequence, it was like, I know, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it was like the first number, and then that would be added to the second number and then times by the last number, and the answer was 42. Now the idea is that if you clicked them out of sequence, you would then times the first number by whatever number next, and so the answer would never be 42 unless you clicked it in the right sequence. That seemed a little bit more cumbersome. Actually just putting in words 1 2 3, bang, it makes that job a lot easier when trying to create that sequence. So, but yeah, it doesn't answer the question about making the colours simpler. But as I say, using this sequence just makes it a lot easier, and it's easier to understand as well. And don't forget, you know, I'm trying to make this as clear as possible. So here you can see on the one, you can see it building up. So the first click, 1 will turn dark green, 1 2 lighter green, 1 2 3 lighter green still, and then open the padlock. So it's very easy visually to see how this is working.
I think it's. I mean, it's clear to me, but I think it's also, you know, good to know, like, whatever method you come up with, you know, whatever works, is,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, valid. Yeah. So, um, yeah. And Daniel says, thanks a lot for the explanation. I thought, yeah, I thought it was clear too. So, um, and Barb, you're asking about parent-child, uh, changing the color via parent-child. I'm not quite clear what you mean, or can you elaborate on that? That there's a parent-child animation for color change. We can come back to that one a little bit later. But I think that's it for now. And yeah, good.
Okay, okay, right. I haven't actually got too much more to actually go through with this project now, but a couple of things I want to pick up on is the padlocks on the nodes. Of course, using the same logic blocks, we've got the color for the background. So here's the hotspot. You see it's a color. It's a locked. So again, I'm using the same logic block here for the node. But here what I'm using is on the visible, I'm using the node ID as well. Okay, now I'm not actually using this last one, but basically we've got, you know, so when the answer is complete, so when I've got 1 2 3 and it's node 1, I'm actually, the visible is false, so we're then hiding the lock, and then what we'll be doing is on this one, when it's the same condition, we're then the visible will be true, and we're showing the open padlock image. And of course, let's just go back to the background. The background will turn to the light green color, of course, when we've got 1 2 3 in there as well. Okay, we've got the level 3 timer, and basically how this is working is when we get to the screen tint, here we go, we've got a screen tint here. This is our screen tint, and you'll see that the screen tint visible comes in when, or rather it disappears because it's set for visible true, but when VAR starts, so when we click the start the level button, I'm sending that false, which then hides it. Okay, but what I've also got is the VAR the level 3, when that equals 1 and 2, I'm going to show it, because obviously what's happening is when you get to the end of the level, you get to see this cup, and when the cup appears, we need to see the screen tint. So the way the screen tint reappears is when you've actually answered the question correctly, and then the screen tint comes back. Okay, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else more in the in this skin that's worth noting. I think in general it's a fairly simplistic thing. I know it probably doesn't look like it, but there isn't a lot more going on. And I think that really just about sums up this particular project, really. So let's just open this up, and there it is. As I say, just to recap, really, we've got a button here that on mouse hover it just says click to reset, and when I click it, it says reset. That's just done very, very simply with the logic. Let's have a little quick look. The hint here. So we've got a mouse down. So on mouse down it says reset. So on mouse over it changes to text to that. And when there's no mouse over and there's no clicking, it's showing the hint. And we're using the variable var hint, which is the text that's being generated here. And the idea of making it into custom properties means that building this particular project is relatively quick. You can select a node, you can type in the hint that you want, you can open up and type in the actual text that you want for the hint text or the clue, and here is going to be the question. Okay, so now how we interact with the question is a good point. So let's just have a look. What I want to do is show you the right, so okay, so when the question here is, we're going to show the cup. That's good. Game timer display, here we go. Right, so the variable on the timer is put in 1 second, and we're picking up the time here, and then we're picking up the clicks here. So the var clicks are here. All right, so that's up to there. So that's basically those two there. So we're just adding those from the two timers. Right, okay, I think I've just about talked this one to death, and in fear of babbling on if I don't wrap this up soon. I'm just going to sort of throw it open one more time. Karen, do we have any questions? I know that last one was pretty short, probably not.
No, but we still have a question from Barb that she's elaborated on.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for that. And I think it's okay if you babble on. I think everyone's brains are going, they're getting ideas. So Barb was asking if is there a way to if there's a way to give feedback if you're wrong in the, if you have a wrong sequence, that instead of, like, you have some kind of animation of color, like a flash of color that, it says, oh, nope, that's wrong. So not just changing the lock or whatever, but giving some kind of animated color change.
Right,
when you're
okay.
wrong.
Yes and no. Basically, with the lock, I know you said, but not with the lock. But as I say, when you get the sequence right, it starts off a dark green, lighter green, and then it goes to light green, right? If I was just to reset this, if I start off with correct and I get it wrong, it's going back to red. So as soon as you get it wrong, it goes back to red. And as soon as it goes back to red, you've got to reset and start again. The mere fact that we're using a variable here and we're adding in the numbers, you can actually use that to affect. I mean, I'm using that to affect the color of this padlock, or the background of the padlock image. But you could use that to affect different things. I mean, if I was just to grab a rectangle and stick it in there, what I could do is say, let's have a look. So let's just say placeholder or either variables. Let's do level 1. So if I was to say that was going to 1, 3, let's just turn that blue. Okay, so let's just create the output. And here, for argument's sake, let's start the level. If I go 1, 2, 3, nothing. If I reset that, if I get it wrong, 1, 3, boom, we've gone blue. So you can use those logic blocks to do whatever you like. Now, if that was a text box, you could copy and paste that logic block and then change the text to white. So we could have had a white background, black text, get it wrong, blue background, white text. So, you know, with these variables and using the logic blocks with the different attributes of the elements, such as, you know, changing text and changing colors, you can change size, you can change its position. You know, if you have a look at the skin and have a look at the element, look at all these different logic blocks that you can use that information to change. You know, you could I don't know, change the position of something to go in the middle of the screen saying wrong, you know, or whatever. I mean, yeah, you can use those variables to trigger almost all the attributes here of these of the element. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's it. Or Barbie said, I'm not quite sure what's already in place, but I think I can see this as like if you make that rectangle, you know, cover the whole skin, and then you see this flash of color the second you do something wrong. But I think that what's important is that you can is to really check out all those logic blocks um, and changing things. There was also Christoph had another idea of using the timer with the one shot, and then saying on activate, change the color, on deactivate, change it back, kind of thing, to get the same kind of effect. So yeah.
Absolutely, because obviously, when I say obviously, sorry, probably one word, but what we've got here is on the actions, you've actually got, and we do use them quite a lot as it happens, you've got variable changed. So here, what we could have done is, I don't know, L1, and then we could get it to do something else. We could have got it to, you know, play a sound or done something else. So let's just change an angle, shall we? Let's go at 45. And the idea is then that we could add an action filter that then says if that variable you know, has the right sequence, because every time we're adding something to this variable, that variable is being changed, right? But it can't trigger until this action filter is satisfied. So it could be that we put in, I don't know, 2, 3. Okay. Let's just see what this is going to do. Love it when a plan comes together. Right, so here then, if I press 2, 3, you'll see that because as I was, every click of this, I was changing, or the variable was being changed, but the action filter would not allow it to do anything until I had, you know, 2 and 3. Now, not forgetting that the words are coming from the description. So every time I click this, we're adding this to the hotspot. All right, so let's just go back to the skin just to show you that. So poly click, and when we click this, we're adding, you know, so we're saying this is the action. So mouse click, set variable value to level 1, we're adding the data coming from the hotspot description. So on the first one, it's adding the word 1. On the second click, 2 and 3. So yeah, that's how we're building it up. And of course, every time we do change that variable, we're getting a variable changed source, and then the action can be whatever you want. Using an action filter, you can hold back triggering that action until the answer is what you want. So you could have rotated something by, I don't know, 10 degrees and then 45 degrees and 180 degrees or whatever. But you can trigger other things. You could trigger pop-ups. You could trigger all sorts. So yeah, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to think about, and there's a lot of scope to building something, I wouldn't say far more complex than this, but something I don't know, probably better presented. I mean, this was put together from, because the concept of this is showing off custom properties. So I had 2 projects. One was doing with the point hotspots and showing how we expanded on the last webinar. This one is how we've used them to build this game without having to use all the more complex variables that we used last time round. So yeah, it is, as Karen mentioned earlier, and which was absolutely spot on, it is really down to your own imaginations. Right, I think I can pull the plug on this and say I've just about talked this one to death. I hope that you've got a little bit of inspiration from it. Custom variables seem simplistic, but as you see, when used with variables and action filters and logic blocks, they then take on a life of their own, and you can start to create something really spectacular. So I hope that's added that little spark and given you some ideas. And yeah, I think I'm ready to wrap this up. Karen?
Yeah, great. I think we're ready to wrap it up as well. Daniel specifically says thank you for so many ideas. Gamification is a great topic in that there's a lot you can do with it. There's so much you can do. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, we were chatting before this webinar. The subject we're probably going to be tackling next time round is going to be the accessibility and tabbing. But when I think we're going to put TBA, because we've got holidays coming up and things like that. So we will announce what we'll do exactly and when we'll do it. But yeah, those are some ideas that we're throwing around at the moment. So from me, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you very much for your time and attention today. And as I say, from me, goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.